Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Sparring Partners Podcast. My name is Coby McKinley, and as always, I am joined by Mr. Brad Jones.
Yo, 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 what up, what up?
Oh boy. 2 shows in 1 week. How does it feel?
It feels like we're on top of the world. It's what it feels like. Feels like we're putting up numbers, double digits. We're coming for triple digits, all right? Coming for them triple digits. We did it once, and we are not afraid to do it again.
Yeah, we've done it one time. We're not afraid to do it again. Now, that's where you come in. Person looking at the screen, person with earbuds in, or they're doing their dishes and they have a Bluetooth speaker and they hear us on Spotify or your audio podcast app of choice. Tell your friends, subscribe, hit that thumbs up if the platform of your choice supports such a thing. But we really would like to grow this thing. So we need your help with the subscription buttons, the thumbs up, the comments, and the old word of mouth, which is the oldest subscription in the book.
Yes.
Yeah. Forget about a news feed.
Mm-mm.
I don't know what the spoken version of a news feed is. That was the friar, the town friar. I'm playing Fable 2 again. Pay him some gold, and he'll yell about us. So, and as always, this is in collaboration with fightfreaks.co. Nailed it. The old name is dead. The old name is gone.
It's out.
I am getting to a point now where I don't even speak its name.
Mm-mm.
All right, so we have got some stuff to talk about. We already, of course, on Sunday, posted Monday. We spoke about UFC 262, right? And all the things that happened. But I feel like we should revisit a topic because it kind of wraps into a different topic this week, which is the Venum shorts. Quick note, also on the show, a little brief brush with Bellator 255. If you'd like some more context, go to fightfreaks.co. Nailed it. And look at my Bellator preview. It was on the news section of Reddit today. So it's not like the top page,
but it's there.
You get there automatically. Mm-hmm. So that's where I was last seen. And we also are talking about the UFC possibly going public. The Zuffa era, truly gone. Also in Bellator news, the rankings came out. They are now dealing in official rankings. We will take a look at those rankings and see where some people are, maybe where they should be. How the rankings compare with some UFC rankings, maybe. And then, of course, a big matchup for the already monster card, UFC 262, Diaz-Edwards, Nate Diaz, Leon Edwards, and we'll talk about that as well. But circle on back. Let's tack on a little UFC 260 talk because it hasn't gone away yet. Jon Jones, Francis Ngannou. The fight to make, quite frankly. Yet it is not being made. Jones, of course, he did his tweet storm asking the UFC to cut him. He's insulted. He's frustrated. Brad, what do you think of the whole situation?
All right, so this is a very interesting one, and this one's going to coincide a little bit with some of the Endeavor talk as well, because I think that's going to play a factor in here. So, from the jump, so it's fairly. This is not new stuff we're getting from Jon. This is we've been in this situation before. He likes to air out their negotiations in the public, and that has some positive, some negative side effects. On the positive side of things, through him negotiating all this through the public, for the most part, it gets the fans on his side through this whole situation, because then the fans get to look at it and be like, okay, like $15 million to fight Ngannou is like a reasonable asking price. Like, it's not outrageous for him to be saying, like, yeah, for me, the greatest of all time in this sport, to go fight Ngannou, I should be making at least $10 million. Like, that's totally not unreasonable when comparing the pay of what they're doing here to other people. So that's a little bit of an aspect of it. People today have dug up that audio clip of Jon before he fought Santos, where he was talking about some of the things he learned from Conor, and Conor's kind of come onto the scene in the way that he kind of raised his pay and accumulated his wealth. But so to back it up a little bit, something that was interesting that because I'm all in, I listen to all these MMA podcast guys, I'm all into all the deep MMA stuff, right? There's been talks and whispers and rumors for all this time since they since Endeavor bought out the UFC and them, right? That, like, behind the scenes, when stuff's going down and stuff gets grimy and they need to cut like a real hard deal with a Khabib or with a Conor or the Masvidal, right? They go to Lorenzo. They go back to Lorenzo. Lorenzo may have cashed out, but the Fertittas are still very much the guys in the back pulling the strings, right? They're the ones, they still have a whole lot of control in this game. Mm-hmm. Lorenzo was there that night. DC confirmed it. Lorenzo was there on the night of Francis winning. He's the guy. He's still wrapped up in this. Him and Dana, they're doing their thing behind the scenes. So now with this deal, it's done. Endeavor has bought it out 100% and is most certainly going to go public with it. I'm going to be very interested to see how they handle this type of situation going forward, in like how invested is a Dana White, or will a Lorenzo still be around? I expect Dana to still be around, but I'm wondering in what capacity is he still going to be invested? He can't be as invested as he is now. And if anything, I feel like once Endeavor gets a hold of this thing 100% and goes public with it, they don't want a Dana White out there running his mouth off, talking mad, crazy shit that gets them looking bad and in trouble when he's not, owning 49% of the company anymore. So there's going to be all kinds of fallout from this. So I kind of went in a lot of different angles with that, but throw it back to you. What do you think about all of this?
I mean, clearly the fight to make it heavyweight is Ngannou Jones. I don't think that we get it. I don't think that we get it. At least for one more fight. I think it is interesting. I think it's very interesting that they want to go public. What does a public MMA organization look like?
Yeah.
Like, do board members vote on? Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
one of your board members is now Elon Musk. Elon Musk is now a man at the top elite level that's going to be making decisions about the UFC. This is very concerning to me.
Oh yeah.
But the thing is, like, if these guys are thinking in business terms, they want to do big business. They want to do a big, massive pay-per-view akin to Francis Jon that, if promoted properly, can do 2 million pay-per-view buys in a huge, now we're back to fans, right? You do that, and like this could be their big, like, we're coming back, right? We do a stadium, Dallas Cowboy Stadium, right, in the summer. Just huge, blow it out, big, 100,000 people, right? You sell the gate, you pay Jon real big bucks. The thing is, though, it's like, this is not like a sustained thing. Like, you got to break out the book to pay Jon, yes, for this one fight, but it's not like you have to pay him that amount of money for every single fight going forward. Like, there's a ginormity to this fight in particular. Like, if Jon was fighting Stipe or something, right? He probably wouldn't be asking for this much money, because it wouldn't be, that fight isn't worth as much money as Francis the Destroyer is. Because,
yeah, I mean, we talk about it. It's our circular conversations in MMA. Like this is one. It's it's only twice, right? Because Jon was said to be tasked with Ngannou before. That they wanted to do this before, and the problem was money, and it didn't get made because of money. And now time has gone by. Nothing was resolved. Not a single thing was resolved. They didn't do the fight because of money. And it's not like between then and now, the money situation is any different. I just think that the UFC, this is one thing. I mean, the power imbalance. It's the power imbalance. Dana White, one of his pet peeves is when fighters take negotiations public. But what does Dana White do every time negotiations don't go well or they stall out? He starts talking about them in public. He starts talking about, there's a lot of ways to say no to a fight. A lot of ways to say no to a fight, which is just a dog whistle for whoever I'm speaking about wanted more money.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And so nothing was resolved heading into this. So now, Dana, it's like when it's like trying to force someone to do something through public pressure.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. It's like
it's to try to get the fans to rally to your side to push the other person.
Yes, and it's unfair. I mean, it's a direct result of the power imbalance that is like how the sport works, and I don't know how the sport looks in a model that is fixated on exponential growth for shareholders. Yeah. Like, right now the UFC's had some down years. It has. 2014 comes to mind as a year that was particularly brutal. Cancellations a lot, some of their biggest fights that year. And yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a thing that's built with the shareholder in mind. So I think we better batten down the hatches and get ready for some really wacky decisions that skew far from sport.
Yeah. It's interesting you brought that up. You remember back in the day, so let's see, this would have been after Robbie Lawler had just beaten Johnny Hendricks in their second fight to claim the belt. And then Dana was like, all right, we're doing Robbie versus Johnny 3. And everybody was like, boo, fuck that fight. Nobody wants to see that fight. And Dana was so defiant about it. And you remember he went to the press conference. He was like, do you guys really not want to see these guys fight again? And everybody was like, no, we do not. We don't want to see that fight again. And he was like, all right, fine. So instead we'll do Lawler versus Rory McDonald 2. And we got like one of the best fights ever.
It's one of the greatest fights of all time, like regardless of division.
It was such a moment though where like Dana was legitimately like, well, this is like, the Johnny Hendricks fight is the way to go. And then all the fans are like, no, it's not. We don't want to see that. And he was like, really? All right, then. Like, I can see that happening here where like, Derek Lewis is, hopping in just like, hey, I'll hop in here and take the fight for a quick milli. Like, I'll undercut Jon like it's nothing. If the fans collectively are like, no, we saw that and it sucked and it may be good again, but we don't want that now. We want Jon now. That's the only fight that's acceptable. And we demand it.
To be clear, it's not like we never want to see that fight ever.
Just next.
Just not next. Yeah. How about Stipe not retiring? Just outright retiring. He did the Instagram post. It did not sound like a retired man's words. It sounded like a guy who just forgot to type, we'll get him next time. or
he
like
almost did. He did say something along those lines.
Yeah, he may have. Yeah.
So here's what I fully expect for Stipe. He doesn't fight the whole rest of the year. So, I mean, that's basically an entire year at that point. I expect him to sit out probably the next 2 heavyweight title fights and just see how it all shakes out. And yeah, that's it. And if it ends up with Francis being on top, then he just retires. And that's it.
No. Oh no, Brad. Oh no. Now he sits out the next 2 title fights, right? As soon as we're left between, Chris Dawkins and Tom Aspinall, then he will step in. Just as we're about to, sacrifice the young generation on the throne of, somehow Blagoy Igatinov got his shot at the world heavyweight belt, or he's about to. Then Stipe steps in. He does nothing. Listen, it's becoming more and more common for fighters to do nothing into a title fight. And I think that's where he's headed. Because he got knocked out on Saturday, but he is still the greatest heavyweight champion of all time. That is a title he has.
Yes, he's already played this card once and it worked, and he can play it again. It's not,
dude. You can play it forever. He can play it for the rest of his career.
Dude, it's all about who's he playing it against, my guy. Like if Francis goes on and gets 2 more savagely brutal knockouts, like if Francis goes and knocks out Jon and then knocks out Derek Lewis, you think Stipe is gonna be like, yeah, I'll do that, and they're like brutal, and he's like taking
beat him, Derek Lewis. So I mean, listen, man. Stipe has. I know I talked mad shit about immediate rematches, which we do not need. We do not need an immediate rematch. We do not need it to happen. But what we do need is a rematch. At some point, Stipe is going to be like, yeah, I'm going to fight again. He's not just a guy.
I'm not even convinced of that.
You're not convinced that he's totally made up his mind as to whether or not he's even going to fight again.
Absolutely. He's about to have a second kid in this stretch, and by the time he comes back, he'll have another birthday. He'll be 39. So he'll be 39 with 2 kids, and he will have just sat out for another year. I think there is definitely a possibility that after that happens, he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm out of here.
Dude,
because then if he does that again, dude, the UFC that division is gonna roll on, and the UFC is gonna be in no rush to give him anything, especially get him anywhere near a belt again. I hate that guy.
Yeah, do you just see like a Cain Velasquez comeback situation? He comes back and he's just like, yep, I just need one. I need to get one done under this like hot prospect.
Yeah.
Fight him, match me up with this young gun. I'll smack him down, and I'm right back to that gold, baby. And he just gets KO'd.
Dude, you were talking about this earlier. No shade here, no shade at all. But our friend and colleague, the Weasel, was talking some nonsense that I could not get on board with. He was going along with saying that Francis will beat Jon, Francis will beat Stipe and Derek Lewis, but there is a heavyweight that will beat Francis, and it is Ciryl Gane. And I was like, whoa, dog. Whoa. I am absolutely not ready at all to say that Ciryl Gane is going to put up a winning performance against Francis Ngannou at this stage in his career. The man is not ready. But
I do find that interesting, and I find it intriguing. Like that thought experiment again. Like I just see that's the type of stuff I took out of my predictions. There's just nothing. That's a nothing statement. There's no way you could know that. There's too many moving parts. What I will say is that it would be an interesting stylistic matchup because of what we saw Gon do last time he came out.
Mm-hmm.
And with a game plan like that, and he's just as big. Like he is a big heavyweight, and but he moves so well. And even in new and improved in Ngannou 2.0 does not move like Gon. Just doesn't have that spring. So I mean, like, yeah, I could see a world in which Gon. I'll put it like this: our old idea of what Ngannou was. Yeah. Gon is a pretty great. He's a pretty great matchup for Gon. But what we've come to understand Ngannou as a dude that can not only defend takedowns but can go after his own, and also once it hits the floor, he's not just desperate to head in one direction, north.
Mm-hmm.
That's a totally different thing because he's big and he's like the amount of size and strength that Ngannou has. That's wrestling all day. That is being able to impose your will on people. And I think that if like from what we saw on Saturday, if his mindset would have been to slow things down on the ground and just control Stipe from there instead of trying to bomb on him, he may have been able to do it. Yeah. I mean, overall, that's if anything, Gon presents a very similar threat. I mean, actually, now that I've thought about it a little bit, the game plan for Gon is almost identical to the game plan for Bones.
Somewhat.
I mean, it is. You're going to recommend Jon try and do what? He's not going to be able, because I mean we've said that forever about Jon, or at least I have, is that Jon he is not the GOAT. Like to anyone 5 inches shorter than him, he is absolutely untouchable. Anyone close to his size or reach, which no one has the reach that Jon has. It's just like freakishly long, even for his height. But anyone who's similarly sized to him, he seems to have a decent amount of difficulty with. So I don't know. I don't see it as so. There are some, people are really strong on both sides, in Ngannou or Jones, and I don't really see how you could be strongly one side or the other.
Yeah, I can get down with that.
Well, I guess we will move on. Kind of related. Kind of a bad day to release details of the Venum payout. Because it, yeah, man, it's so bad. It seems like a joke. It's really, really bad. Champions got a $2,000 pay raise under the Venum deal. And I'll just name them off real quick. Name off the tiers. Okay, so if you've had 1, 2, 3 bouts in the UFC, you get $4,000. 4 to 5, you get 4,500. 6 to 10 bouts, you get 6,000. 11 to 15 bouts, you get 11,000. 16 to 20 bouts, you get 16,000. 21 plus fights, you get $21,000. If you challenge for a belt, you get $32,000, and if you are the title holder, you get $42,000.
Yeah. So, quite pathetic numbers, as is to be expected. There was a I guess what is just now going to be a precedent and standard that was established by the horrific Reebok deal. And now this new replacement deal has just been structured in the exact same way as the last one, which was unsuccessful and a disaster. And so now they're going to do it again in the exact same way, with a less established company and no rollout of the equipment. And we haven't seen any of it yet. And they're just going to be wearing it on the event next weekend. So I have the lowest of expectations possible for this disaster.
Yeah, man. It's just one of those things where you really, it's really tough because, man, the fighters are like under the Reebok deal. I mean, the pay cut to fighters, even like to young fighters now, this is just like stories around the campfire. You know what
they
I
have
mean?
no frame of reference.
No, they have no frame of reference. Like what sponsorships could look like at a national level or on the world stage with the world watching, how much money you are actually worth, how much your body as a billboard is actually valued at. It's becoming less and less to where this is going to be a thing that, like, eventually, by the time the next Reebok deal or the next Venum deal or what have you comes out, most of the roster, like, this is all they will have known.
Mm-hmm.
Is this. But obviously, I mean, just because they're ignorant of the before times doesn't mean that the before times were any less sweet. You had like a top 10. The person who is always referenced when you talk about this stuff is Brennan Schaub, who reportedly made six figures off of his shorts. That's about how much he would make when he would fight. He was like a ranked 15 to 10 heavyweight in his time in the UFC. And the UFC's only gotten bigger.
Yep.
So if you can imagine how much like a champion would make when they had sponsorships on their shorts, or a challenger, or a non-title fight night headliner. It's honestly, it's fucked up, man. It's one of those things where the hardcore fans thought, oh, okay, the fever will break, and the UFC, maybe they realized the error of their ways with Reebok, but they were stuck in that contract. So now the Venum deal's coming up, and now they have a chance to right their wrongs. And they totally didn't. And if anything, it's worse.
Yeah, the UFC loves their wrongs. They're not trying to right nothing. Remember, Dominic Cruz always talks about, like, during that multiple year hiatuses that he would go on where he couldn't fight, that he would live off of his sponsorship, especially like the Monster sponsorship, because he couldn't fight, couldn't make any money. So in the outside of fighting, he had to live off of sponsorship money. Truly a brutal, cutthroat type of thing. We've forgotten now. It's been so long, kind of even just outside of the sponsorships, the individuality of personalized shorts brought to people like Anderson or Chuck Liddell. And now we're about to get Paddy Pimblett, and he's going to be stuck into some generic UFC shorts like everybody else is. And it's just a bummer. It's a bummer. Trying to make everything look all professional and cleanly so they can go sell it and make a bunch of money off of it. It's getting very corporate around here, and it's going to eventually lead to disaster, I predict.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, as we'll talk about it later in the show. I mean, being on Showtime is a really big deal for Bellator. and as their stock starts to rise, I mean, we spoke about it maybe 3 weeks ago. Shoeface.
Yeah.
He said straight up, like, yeah, obviously, the UFC is the prestige organization. If you want to be known as the best, you fight there. But if you want to get paid the best, there are other places to get paid the best. Which the fact that the two are at all separate is really mind-boggling. But I mean, like, yeah, for your mid-tier fighter, I mean, there's a reason why. There's a reason why when dudes realize, like, oh, I'm not touching that belt, they get the hell out.
Yeah.
They get gone, because honestly, for your, if your organization is 1 through 25, if you're a fighter 10 through 25, you can make more money somewhere else.
Oh yeah, it's a crazy system. And then, like, let's say you grind through 15 fights in the UFC, right? And you finally get to a title fight, and you get your title fight and you win the belt, and you get to sign this nice fancy contract where you're making a bunch of money for being a champion, and you defend it once and you defend it twice, and then you lose it. And all that money and that lifestyle you just adjusted to all goes back down to what you're making before. So the window is ridiculously small.
Yep.
Like, you got to grind and hustle forever to get there. And then the moment you slip, it is likely gone forever, and you're back down with the rest of them.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's
style.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's bad enough that they don't get paid from it, but, like, I think at least Venum is not trying to print their names on the logos.
No, I legitimately think that Venum – I just think Venum is out of their league with this. I feel like Venum is too small of a company to be fully, like, providing for the whole UFC. I feel like they're a little bit in over their head, but they're just trying to, like, make some stuff that's passable, like, whatever, just as, like – they're not trying to be like, oh, we're Reebok. Look at all this Reebok emblem and shit all over the place. It's real big. But I don't know. It's a mess, You would have thought they would have went with somebody like Nike or Under Armour, or tried to go bigger instead of smaller, back the other direction.
I mean, let's be real. The UFC and other big brands just don't play nice.
No.
Like, do you think that Nike is interested in locking down a long-term deal with the same company that was willing to rush to put a show on at Tachi Palace?
Nike also Nike has been burned by multiple UFC fighters in the past, mainly Jon Jones, Anderson Silva. There were multiple fighters that the UFC signed at one point, and they botched their sponsorship. So I'm not surprised, but it is unfortunate. It's just it's a weird – the UFC's in a weird place, and it's only getting weirder with this IPO coming up. It's going to be interesting how it unfolds in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'm just, to close it out, I'm a little bit bummed that they aren't trying to put – I mean, Venum has been an MMA brand for years and years. I mean, there is I remember shopping their website back when we trained.
Yeah.
And but I'm bummed we're not going to get to see any fighters' names messed up.
Yeah.
On their, we get to see no Giblerts.
No Gilberts.
We get no Anderson Aldos.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anderson Aldo, the Spider middleweight. Or I'm looking at uniform mess ups. Conor McGregor, the American. And just it is what it is. Yeah. So let's bring on some fight news. Right? There's a couple bit of fight news that we should take a look at. Some interesting ones.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll start with the bad news. We got some bad news.
Yeah.
Darren Till, injured. He is out of his four-man middleweight tournament spot. Kevin Holland steps in on short notice to take on Marvin Vettori, which I don't hate that matchup. But I also feel like Martin Vettori is equipped to do to Kevin Holland exactly what just happened to Kevin Holland.
Yeah, it's honestly really unfortunate the way this thing shook out because so they put together this four-man tournament at middleweight just like a week apart. You have one half fall apart last week, and then you're like, what are we going to do with Whitaker? And they're like, all right, we'll just do Gastelum. A couple days later, Till falls out. Okay, well, we could have just done Vettori versus Whitaker. But instead, now we got to botch two of these fights together. I would have honestly preferred if Derek Brunson had stepped in on short notice, but I'm assuming he's still in victory mode, partying it up, drinking, eating some cake after his big dub.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, if he knows what's good for him, he probably is like, yo, I'd rather wait for Paulo Costa because that's probably a bigger fight. But just the way that this whole thing is shook out, I feel like if Derek Brunson had stepped in and got a win over Marvin Vettori, he could have potentially just like sidestepped all these dudes and got really high up the ladder. But regardless, Kevin Holland's here. I don't like his chances whatsoever. I think it's going to be a boring wrestling heavy fight that people are probably going to hate. And a reminder, this is on ABC. So probably not going to be the best decision to do that. And just like, dude, middleweight was already a mess. But like now, of the four guys, three of them were rematches. There was only one guy that Izzy even wanted to fight. That guy's out. So now, what are your options here? Even Gastelum, you swapped Gastelum in. That's another rematch. All these fights are rematches. Gastelum or Whitaker wins, either one of them. Boom, you get a rematch with Adesanya. I don't think the UFC wants to book either one of those rematches.
No, I think that the UFC, I think you give Gastelum a couple wins, they're down to do it again, brother.
Oh, they'll do it again, but he needs a couple wins, not one after he just went on a bad skid and got one fight back on track.
Listen, man, he got that win over Hermanson. Are you so cold to the plight of Kelvin Gastelum that you can't even count his win over Ian Heinisch?
I was gonna say he actually lost to Hermanson.
I said the wrong name the first time. But now that I've switched it out,
it does still make sense though.
It does. I mean, yeah. He needs two more for sure.
What are your options? You get of your four options here. You get Whitaker rematch, Gastelum rematch, Vettori rematch, or Kevin Holland, who is not ready and way in over his head. They wouldn't even give him the title fight even if he won.
Wait, who?
Holland. If Kevin Holland beat Vettori, he's the only.
No, okay. Well, yeah, no way. No way he gets a title shot after Vettori. But I'll say this. He is, even though I just repped hard for Kelvin Gastelum, I think he is closer to a title shot than Kelvin Gastelum.
Yes. Yes, that is right. I mean, this whole thing is a mess. Like,
the whole thing is a mess because actually, now
like
I'm sitting.
At this point, we're convening towards the Marvin Vettori rematch versus Izzy. I think
that one gets slept on, man.
I think that's the best case scenario out of all these fights.
Of course, it's the best case scenario. It was the closest fight of all of them. It's like the one that some people feel he shouldn't have gotten.
Yeah.
Like it is a rematch that I don't know. I mean, I said it. We said it before with Wonder Boy, but while Izzy has here or there mentioned Vettori, usually if he does mention Vettori, it's to make it clear that no, that doesn't interest me.
Yeah.
He does not bring up Vettori. And I think we saw from Adesanya's last bout and round 3 of his bout against Vettori that we kind of know why.
Yeah.
So I'm very intrigued in a possible rematch between those two. But we'll see. I mean, it is such a mess that at least for Adesanya, he can just kick back.
Yeah, just chill, let it work itself out.
Okay, so we got the bad news. Now here's some good news. Leon Edwards has got to fight against Nate Diaz. How do you feel about that?
Oof, very weird, strange fight. Logical matchmaking when you look at it from an outside post perspective, though. Do not like the style matchup for Nate Diaz.
No, it's horrible.
No, I was thinking about this earlier. I was like, so Nate Diaz gets, he fights this long career in the UFC where he's up and down, he's fighting all the time, he's winning, losing, switching multiple weight classes, whatever. He's not getting anything out of it, basically. Then first Conor fight comes along, boom, he breaks it real big, becomes a big superstar. Fights Conor again, and then is gone for like 4 years. Doesn't capitalize on that pop from Conor at all for like 4 whole years. Then comes back, still has the pop, kind of rebuilds his momentum a little bit against Anthony Pettis, and then fully Super Saiyans his pop again against Masvidal. Now he's gone away again, and he's about to rev this thing up to try to do it again. I was wondering how it would have looked if he would have actually kind of channeled that pop and used some of it. I think it would have resulted in him losing to certain people, but the way that he's pulled this off in the last couple of years is like, it's selective matchmaking. He's not fighting anyone that's coming off a loss. Nate Diaz is always being the one that's like, oh, like that guy over there that just put in a whole bunch of work to climb the ladder, I want to fight that guy so I can just take his spot and hop in. And the UFC's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. He's done this like multiple times now. And it's fascinating to me like that he could have actually done this even more. But I bring that up specifically because I think now he is at the end of the road of his ability to use this shtick because he's old. He got beat up bad in that Masvidal fight, and now I'm like, man, you're fighting young dude in his prime. That is primarily a striker. He's got strong leg kicks. You might get beat up really bad on a big stage, and that might start to diminish your. It won't diminish his star because there's always the third Conor fight, but like, it'll. I don't know. I think too bad.
I don't know.
I don't
know. People keep saying there's always the third Conor fight, but I mean, hey man, we learned with BJ Penn, like, oh, you were really successful at lightweight? Well, then maybe you should stay there.
Yeah.
It's really, so Nate Diaz, I just don't think is willing to. It's not like, is he noticeably larger? Has he like noticeably put on muscle? Because if not, it really is just a matter of him being like, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to cut to 155, which again, we already tried this. And when Nate Diaz was younger and active.
Yeah.
We already did it.
Yeah.
He got ragdolled multiple times in a row.
And then he went back to lightweight. It's like 2 generations of fighter.
It is 2 generations of fight because I mean,
crazy,
like he lost a stun gun.
Yeah, Rory McDonald, who's now washed out of the UFC and Bellator all the way to PFL.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy though. But it's like Nate is now in his late 30s. His big thing in those Conor fights was his durability, right? He's just like, I'm eating these shots from Conor. I'm not going anywhere. Like the shots that Conor usually puts people out with, they don't work on me. Well, bruh, he was getting lit up in that fight against Masvidal, which was now 3 years ago in November. And it's like, dude, Leon Edwards was looking quite sharp in that first round against Bilal Muhammad. So I think very bad stylistic matchup for Nate. But, of course, all this makes sense, right? If Nate wins, Nate, that's your number one contender fight. Nate just cut in front of all these people at welterweight to get a welterweight title shot where he will get absolutely smashed against Usman. Or if by some chance Masvidal wins the belt, you have this colossal rematch of Masvidal and Nate Diaz for the actual belt. This is all timing. Nate knows what he's doing. Nate timed this all out perfectly. As was stated, actually, a little bit of that sprinkle behind the scenes, as Ariel was talking about. The UFC was trying to put together Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. Colby was like, nope, not doing it. Not fighting Leon Edwards. I'm just going to sit on the sideline and wait for my title shot. Good luck with that, bozo. And then Nate Diaz came in and was like, yo, I want Leon. They were like, all right, cool, because we were just trying to figure out what to do with this dude. And he's like, but make it 5-round co-main. Sure, whatever, it's done. Do it. But I'm fine with that as long as it's selective. I don't want always 5-round co-mains in every circumstance. But in certain circumstances, I do want that. And this is a cool use of it.
Quick piece of trivia. So we know who the first 5-round non-title co-main will be.
Yeah.
Because it just got announced.
Yeah.
I think you know what I'm going to ask you.
Yes. And I know both answers, I think.
Now, can you tell me the first ever 5-round non-title bout in UFC history? What event? And who was in it?
Okay, so there's
also bonus points. Do you want some bonus points?
I know what it's going to be already. I'm going to hit you with both of them. I'm going to hit the bonus too because the very first one.
What's the bonus?
The very first one, they did not go to a 5-round decision.
Exactly.
The bonus is the one where they actually did, which was UFC 139, Shogun versus Henderson, which was a glorious 5-round non-title main event. Excellent.
Yeah, the rematch is pretty good too.
Rematch was good. The first one's still just immaculate. Now the first one, which was a quick finish, was Mark Munoz and Nate Marquardt.
Wrong.
Oh, who was it?
Chris Lieben.
Chris Lieben, yeah, that's right. Chris Lieben.
UFC 130.
It was on Spike.
Yeah. What event was that?
Had to be in 130s. That's too early because no, you're right. Because 139. 139 was Henderson and Shogun, so it had to be 138.
138, I think.
138 or 137. No, 137 was in Brazil. It was 138.
138. Yes.
137 should have been Rich Franklin versus Vanderlei Silva 2.
That's correct.
Which was a doomed pay-per-view that fell apart.
Yeah,
horribly.
Instead we got we got the brutalization of BJ Penn by Nick Diaz.
Oof.
And we got a co-main event, of course. Co-main event. Do you want to guess the co-main event of UFC 137?
Czech Congo?
Yeah, he got a decision. That's what the of course was. He got a 3-round decision over Matt Mitrione.
Yep. Yeah.
And third fight down was a 3rd-round KO from Roy Nelson.
That's so crazy because I can even remember where we were when we were in Tucker's watching that card. Like it's insane.
Yeah, that was brutal on those giant silver screens. Seeing BJ Penn get absolutely bodied.
Good Lord, we got memories of this shit.
Oh man, that's rough. But no, actually, you See, we traded, right? You got I didn't even realize which was the first fight that actually went 5 rounds. So that's a good one. And there was that total disaster where for that single event, they were like, this time we're not doing 5 rounds. And it was Sanchez.
Oh, it was ours. It was our event in Louisville. It was
Sanchez Campman. Sanchez Campman. And they were like, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, for whatever reason, this one is not going to be 5 rounds. It's just going to be 3. Didn't they do that within the last?
It was on a Wednesday.
Right.
They did that again recently, and it pissed us off again. But it was because it was short notice. It was Zabit versus Calvin Kattar.
Yeah.
It was a 3-round main event, and that was a fight that should have went 5. But shout out to Zabit, wherever the hell he went. Zabit and Yair. Good God, both those
dude,
guys.
He may be like the risen he may be like the risen lightweight champion. Tofik Musayev.
Oh.
He's currently in a war.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Zabit had to go to some Russian war. Chechnya or whatever. Ukraine.
It is it's not a great time for him. He is currently involved in the Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict.
Of course. We all know about that one.
Which is a real shame, man. It's a real shame. You know, when Zombie got whisked away to be in the Korean army, we knew there would be an end date. Tofik Musayev, we don't know when Armenia and Azerbaijan will be at peace again. But man, the sport of MMA, because I watched his ascent.
Mm-hmm.
And the sport of MMA is a worse place without him in it. He is so good.
Those mandatory military sentences are brutal, man, because these guys are losing like 4 years in the peak of their career.
This wasn't mandatory.
Well, this guy, what's his name? And then the other one too, the Doo-Ho Choi also had to do it as well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, because like Zombie was on a tear, and then he had to go away, and he came back, and he like started to get his momentum back, and now he's hit a skid, but he's so old now. I'm like, dude, if he could have been fighting like those 4 years in his peak, he could have been a savage. But it's unfortunate they kind of rip a good hunk of their prime of their career away. Goddamn military. The Korean military.
And also Azerbaijan and Armenia.
That's right.
Okay. I saw a little, maybe it was vapor links. Because I'm hearing rumblings, I'm hearing rumors that PFL's 2021 schedule is going to get delayed.
Yes.
But I couldn't find like an actual link to a news story. Do you know what that was about?
Yes, that is. They are in a lawsuit. They are being sued right now by some of their former employees, and that is threatening to delay the season as of right now.
They're so gonna go tits up.
Yeah, it's not going to be great.
No way. Where does the real question is? Let's.
You know what? Actually, while we're on the subject, I'm just gonna. I have a little something I'm gonna throw in here and riff on too, because it kind of makes sense. We're just kind of bouncing around. So, speaking of PFL, coming up, as obviously there's no UFC this weekend, so we're free to kind of bounce around. There's a Bellator on Friday. That's their big return, the first event of the year. PFL is supposed to be coming back shortly. That's probably going to be delayed. Also, we're coming up on the big ONE FC debut on TNT. That's the big event where they're going to have all their former UFC guys fighting, Sage and DJ and them. So for this past 2 weeks, DJ, Demetrius Johnson, former UFC flyweight great, has been on a media rampage, right? He's been going around, people have been interviewing him, asking him all kinds of stuff. And naturally, here we go, I'm about to go off the rails, just be ready for it. Naturally, nobody gives a shit about ONE FC or what's going on in ONE FC or who the hell he's fighting or what's going on over there. So every single one of these interviews becomes, so DJ, what do you think about this illegal knee that happened in the bantamweight title fight in the UFC, or hey, what do you think about what Davison Figueiredo's doing in the UFC with your division, blah, blah, blah. And then DJ will be like, yeah, like blah, blah, blah. They should change this rule and this should be illegal. And I'm just like, dude, who gives a shit what DJ has to say about what's going on over here in the UFC? Like, you're gone. You're gone. You're not here. I don't care what you are thinking about, or like what being like, well, this guy's a bad champion and blah, blah, blah. This dude sucks and stuff. I'm like, I just don't care about what you have to say about any of the stuff that's going on in the UFC right now. And I get it, because the interviewers are one to get stuff that people want to watch, and nobody wants to hear about what the fuck's going on in one. But it is becoming annoying to me, because it seems daily, every single interview, they're all different. And everyone is DJ just being like, oh yeah, this UFC thing and blah, this UFC thing. And I'm like, yo, dog, you're gone. You've been gone for a long time and you're never coming back. So I don't care about you talking about like fighting Henry Cejudo or fighting somebody. It's not going to happen. So I don't care. Just go away. The end.
Yeah, there's a cult-like quality to ONE FC. Like, you're just not sure what's real and what's not real.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just literally had a 16-year-old girl in like a feature bout position, like a couple weeks ago. So like, you just don't know what to get from them. And also, they're really leaning into a thing that is kind of a pet peeve of mine. Now, Risen does this, but ONE FC, you just don't know. You don't know what you're going to get. Like, one on TNT 1 is, out of the 6 fights on the main card, 2 of them are, one is a kickboxing bout, and another is a Muay Thai bout. Out of the 6 fights that are going to be on television, a third of them are taken up by not MMA.
Yeah.
So it's, man. And as far as Demetrius Johnson, I don't really know what it means for him to win a 1 bantamweight championship. Because, I mean, like, let's be clear. This is not, they are just now breaking into the U.S. market. It's been really unfriendly to try and search out ONE FC events and their legacy and their history. It's it's been overall inconvenient.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't particularly care what DJ does, or I mean, like, I do care what he does, and I do care that he is fighting. But it's almost like, man, it's hard to find an analog, because it's like, it's hard to explain to like a current fan, like DJ is, like, as far as consistency and skill and all that, he's one of the best we ever saw, without a doubt, in terms of skill, like a gap between what he could do and what his competition could do. He's one of the best we've ever seen. And I think that a lot of fans, you can't help but feel that he packed up his toys and went home right after his first loss at flyweight.
Yeah.
Because it's not a great look to lose your title and then be like, okay, well, that was fun, but I'm going to go over here and do the same thing just against people who are not the marquee names in the world.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna get paid just as much, if not more, to face ultimately less tested competition.
Yes,
So
I think undoubtedly DJ has tarnished his UFC legacy in his post, or whatever, this past couple, however many years it's been now. He has largely just been completely forgotten. I don't think he ranks in most people's top 5s or top 10s, when they bring up their list of their goats anymore. Yeah, I think he did.
Which is it's honestly kind of confusing. I mean, I honestly feel like when people leaving him out of their top tens, or like fuck a top 10, if you don't include him in your top 10 pound for pound, or like top 10 greatest to ever do it, like, I mean, you must have started watching like during the McGregor era.
There are a lot.
I don't understand it. Well, because I mean, like, yeah, man. I mean, like, he just is like as a matter of, I wasn't expecting this episode to go into whether or not people think Mighty Mouse is like a top 5 all-time fighter, but like, I don't really see an argument against it.
I can't put him in my top 5. I can go 10 though for sure.
Whew. Oh, bro. He has the most.
Close the door on DJ. What else you got?
That's ridiculous. The only guy to have a win over him, right? Listen, I understand that. Yeah, the one that happened most recently is usually the one that is taken the more serious of the result, right? Henry Cejudo eked by a split decision against a man who had kneed his liver out of his side. You know what I mean? So, I mean...
Yeah, see, I'm also on the fuck Henry Cejudo train as well. There's a lot.
I'm more on that. There's a
lot of these lighter champions that I am just over with, and I'm ready to move on past. And I am happy with Davidson Figueiredo atop the flyweight division. Probably happier than I ever was as DJ up there in terms of my enjoyability and watching it. So, yeah, fuck them.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It is what it is. I guess it's a matter of like what you like to watch or style, or no one was going to accuse DJ of doing a prime McGregor impression when it came to getting people excited to watch him fight.
Yeah,
he very much. It really did seem like he was still on the high school wrestling team.
Yeah.
And he didn't really care who showed up to the gymnasium.
He's very Stipe-like in his fight promotion. Both of them are just kind of fucking wet blankets and don't do anything to promote their fights.
Yeah. I mean, I do miss having Demetrius Johnson around, just due to the fact that, like, whether people want to give him his due or not, like, if DJ was still here, a question that Figueiredo, for example, would have to answer: Have you beaten DJ?
Figueiredo wouldn't have never been champion because DJ would still be champion to this day.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
DJ would have beaten Cejudo in a third fight and gotten the belt back, and we would have been in this Amanda Nunes situation where we're like, please just go away and let the rest of the division breathe and live.
Just let them breathe.
God,
you're holding them too tight. They don't. They're not getting the O2 they need.
There's like.
So to close the show out, we've just kind of been bouncing here a little bit. Of course, later on today, because you'll probably see this the following day, is Bellator 255, which is pretty crazy that they're like pretty close to being on par with UFC as far as event number. That's weird. That kind of came out of nowhere, huh? There's
no fight nights, right? So every single event is numbered.
Yeah. There's no like challenger series or fight night. It's all just numbered events.
Yeah.
And so we get Pitbull taking on Sanchez, Neiman Gracie taking on Jason Jackson. Jason Jackson's most recent win was a decision over Benson Henderson. Tyrell Fortune is a really gifted heavyweight, and he was supposed to fight Matt Mitrione, but Mitrione fell out. So instead, he has a rematch against Jack May, a man who Fortune kneed in the cup really hard during their first meeting. It led to a no contest. So,
nice.
Yeah, this is a rematch. The cousin of Khabib makes his Bellator debut. He is 11-0, and he takes on Mike Hamill.
He is an outrageous favorite. This morning when I looked, he was a minus 1,200.
Put some money on Mike Hamill, dude. It was kind of hard. It was hard to make to like really predict these, or like I was really having to really go like because so in my preview, which you can find at fightfreaks.co, I did how they would win, how they would lose. So Usman Nurmagomedov, pretty much anywhere he's going to be able to win. He is more a striker than a grappler.
Okay.
Much like some of the other Nurmagomedovs that we've seen, or the other, like I think Khabib's middleweight cousin just fought, and Pistol Duda. So yeah, Usman is more on the striking side of things, but at the same time, he has a really great wrestling game and he has a really great top game. The problem for him, because Mike Hamill is a super high-paced wrestler. Like, he's just looking to barrel across the cage and overwhelm you, throw a big overhand right, and shoot for takedowns and try and just overwhelm you through wrestling and ground and pound as quick as possible. And pretty much if that is not how it goes, he's in really big trouble. So if he does not get that done quickly, it's just not going to happen. The thing is about Usman is that he has really good footwork until he gets to the inside. Once he gets on the inside and he's looking to just like slip and throw, he does like you see it in street fights all the time. They'll like just lean their head way back, but their feet will stay put.
Yeah.
That is how I foresee Mike Hamill possibly being able to get a takedown against Usman Nurmagomedov. That is it. That's all he's got. He's got, I mean, like, legit. It's there's a reason why he's 1,200. Although, throw $5 on Mike Hamill.
All right.
Yeah. And then we get Kana Watanabe against Alejandra Lara in the women's flyweight. And just like in the UFC, women's flyweight is pretty lit. So this is going to be a good one. Also on the card, not even like a headlining prelim, not even, on the main card. Roger Huerta is on the card as well.
Nice. Old man.
Yeah, he's the fourth fight in, and he fights 5-0 Chris Gonzalez.
Oof.
Isn't that brutal? You are a guy with 37 fights, and they put you up against a guy who is 5-0. They are really trying to send you to PFL, huh?
It's about as brutal as it gets on the
that reference would have worked better, but if I had, PFL. I forgot to mention this earlier. PFL seems like MMA's way. It is MMA's retirement plan. That is what PFL has become for multiple fighters.
Yeah.
So like Rory McDonald is like, I don't want to do this much. but I can do it 3 more times.
Yeah.
I can. Yeah, I can do it. Same with Pettis. Like,
and Verdum.
And Verdum. I don't know how long I can do this, but I can at least do it 3 more times.
Yeah.
I can make it through the playoffs. Actually, no, that's what it is. You have to win in the playoffs. Then you win. Then you go to the quarter, semi, and then finals.
Yeah.
So you do it. You fight like 5 times.
Yeah. Do what you got to do. Better than being in the UFC and the meat grinder.
Yeah, I mean the whole fucking sport's a meat grinder, unfortunately. So
yeah, that's true.
You gotta enter into possibly a financially corrupt organization on the off chance that the giant check they hand you at the end doesn't bounce.
Yeah.
And on that note, I think that's the show. I know this was a little bit different than typical, but we already did our event breakdown on 260 on Sunday, which allowed for this to be a nice, easy, breezy show where we just we hang out, we talk about stuff for an hour, which is pretty fun because when we've got so much, and also it's an off week from the UFC, so it really allowed us, because when we have in a single show, we've got to break down what happened, the news, and then what we think is going to happen. It's just a mad dash to the finish. So it's been a nice, relaxed episode. So
yeah, it was very fun.
Yeah, a nice MMA visit, an MMA themed visit. But yeah, Brad, do you have anything to say to the people? Any Frank Mir quotes? Any quotes, thoughts, comments, or concerns?
I'll skip the Frank Mir quotes for you guys, but I appreciate all you all sticking around, giving us listens, giving us views. Keep driving them views. Recommend to your friends. Give us likes and subscribes and such. We appreciate y'all. Stick around. We ain't going nowhere. We here every week, at least one episode a week. Catch y'all next week.
So I agree with everything that you just said, Brad. And also, there haven't been any new. I just checked. There have not been any new Frank Mir quotes.
Ah,
the ones I brought you. He is no longer fighting Tarver, though.
Yeah.
He's fighting someone else because Tarver couldn't make it past the medicals.
Yep.
So if that tells you the quality of opponents or fighters that they're finding for the undercard of the Triller event, I don't know. What will, but as always, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. My name is Coby McKinley. If you would like to read through a preview of Bellator 255, then all subsequent Bellators, go to fightfreaks.co, and there's other good stuff there too. I spend a lot of time on the previews, so you just read it, or don't even read it. Just make that little counter of page visits go up. I'm fine with that too. So we'll see you guys next week. I'm not going to nail anything down, but we'll be back next week at least once. So, peace out, everybody.
Peace.